It was a cold Monday morning in Paterson, New Jersey, and the scent of fabric softener mixed with steam floated through the air as Jorge Ramirez, 42, opened the doors of Spin Clean Laundry for what he feared could be the last time. Jorge wasn't just an owner. He was the janitor, the cashier, the repairman, and the heart of the small laundromat tucked between a deli and a pawn shop. Born in Guatemala, Jorge had come to the U.S. 16 years earlier with nothing but a backpack and the hope of building a better life. His dream was simple: own something, be someone, leave something behind for his kids. And for a while, that dream seemed to be working. He bought the laundromat 5 years ago from a retiring Korean couple, using every dollar he and his wife had saved cleaning houses and landscaping. Spin Clean wasn't glamorous, but it served the community. Elderly tenants who couldn't afford machines, single moms who dropped their laundry off after night shifts. Jorge knew them all by name. But business had slowed. A large chain laundromat, with touchscreen kiosks and flashy discounts, had opened 4 blocks away. Rent increased. 2 dryers broke and stayed broken. His credit was maxed. And worst of all, his daughter needed braces, something he kept pretending he didn't hear her mention. That Monday morning, as he adjusted a flickering neon sign, he sighed. He had applied for a small business loan twice, denied both times. He even considered driving Uber at night, but the car needed repairs too. The edges of his dream were fraying. What Jorge didn't know was that someone was watching, not a thief, not a competitor, but a man in a charcoal coat sitting inside a black SUV parked across the street, sipping coffee, reading a tablet, watching him, every morning, same time, same car. That man's name was Elliot Blake, 61. And though no one knew it, Elliot was worth over $140 million. He didn't wear watches that sparkled. He didn't own a private jet. He never gave interviews. His wealth had come quietly, through smart acquisitions, helping small businesses grow into national names. While the world chased the next unicorn startup, Elliot had a different strategy. Find the ones who serve with heart. Invest in the people, not just the numbers. He called himself the invisible investor. He didn't believe in sharks. He believed in gardeners, the kind who planted seeds in places no one else looked, and something about Jorge made him stop. Elliot Blake wasn't there by accident. 2 weeks earlier, while meeting a contact from a logistics firm over lunch, Elliot had overheard a woman complaining that the only laundromat she trusted, the one where Jorge always helps with the bags, might be closing. She spoke of him with warmth, like family. That moment struck Elliot harder than the quarterly reports he'd reviewed that morning. He asked for the address, quietly, casually. Then he drove by. Once, then again, then every day after. Elliot didn't believe in luck. He believed in patterns. He watched Jorge arrive early, clean the sidewalk himself, give customers extra, quarters when they were short. He watched him smile even when he was clearly exhausted. No sign, no pitch, just service. He also noticed the peeling paint, the cracked glass on the front door, and how Jorge always waited for every customer to leave before locking up, even if that meant staying past 10 p.m. So Elliot sent in a test. One rainy Wednesday, a young woman walked in carrying 3 huge bags of laundry. Her card declined twice. She was polite but embarrassed. Jorge smiled and said, "Don't worry about it today. Just bring me a smile next time." The woman, was Elliot's assistant. And the smile she brought back wasn't hers. It was Elliot's. That night, Jorge went home like every night, tired, unsure how long he could keep pretending. His wife, Lucia, warmed leftover arroz con pollo while folding flyers they could never afford to print. His son played with a cardboard box pretending it was a race car. Jorge sat in silence, thinking about whether he should sell the shop before it swallowed them. Across town, in a quiet office surrounded by whiteboards and market data, Elliot was already preparing a plan. He called in his core team: finance, operations, branding, legal. He pulled up numbers from similar laundromats he had helped transform in Boston and Tampa. He outlined what Spin Clean could become: delivery services, loyalty programs, digital payment, pickup lockers, partnerships with apartment complexes. A model built for the future, but rooted in Jorge's human touch. Then Elliot said what he always said when he found a diamond in the dust. We invest only if it moves hearts before wallets. The team nodded. The mission was clear, but there was still one thing left to do. The hardest part, the reveal. And it had to be done his way. It was a quiet Friday afternoon at Spin Clean. Rain tapped the windows gently as Jorge refilled the vending machine, making sure the candy rows were perfectly aligned. A small detail, but one he believed made people feel respected. At 3:17 p.m., a young man in a gray hoodie walked in, looked around, and placed a sealed envelope on the counter. For Mr. Jorge Ramirez, he said softly, from a friend. Before Jorge could ask, the man was gone. He stood there for a moment, suspicious. Was it a bill collector? A lawsuit? He had heard horror stories from other immigrant business owners. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single page. No letterhead, no signature. Jorge, I've been watching your work, not to judge, but to understand. You don't run a laundromat. You run a community. You show up. You help people. You keep going when most would give up. And because of that, I would like to invest in you. Not a loan. Not charity. Partnership. If you're open to hearing more, be at the corner of Main and Park Ave on Monday at 8 a.m. No obligations. Just a conversation. A believer in your dream. Jorge sat down. His first instinct was fear. Was this a scam? A prank? Why him? Who would invest in a man who hadn't bought new shoes in 2 years? But then came something else. Hope. For the first time in months, he imagined not just keeping the lights on, but growing. Hiring help. Fixing the dryers. Maybe even taking his family on a real vacation. That weekend, Jorge barely slept. Lucia cried when she read the letter. She believed in signs, and this one felt divine. Monday morning came. Jorge shaved, put on his cleanest shirt. His hands trembled as he walked to the corner, the letter folded neatly in his pocket like a passport to another life. At 8 a.m. sharp, a black SUV pulled up. The window rolled down. A calm voice said, Mr. Ramirez, my name is Elliot. Let's talk. Jorge blinked, speechless. He didn't know it yet, but the moment he stepped into that car, everything in his life and business was about to change forever. The inside of the SUV smelled like leather and cedar wood. Classical music played softly in the background. For Jorge, it felt like stepping into another world. Not fancy, but intentional. Everything had purpose. Elliot extended a hand. Before we talk business, Jorge, I want you to understand one thing. Jorge nodded, nervous but attentive. You didn't earn this meeting by luck. You earned it by character. He paused, letting the weight of those words land. Elliot then pulled out a tablet, tapping to show a series of documents, graphs, and images, Jorge's shop, competitor analysis, market potential. I've helped scale 3 laundry service models in the past 7 years, but they all lacked something you have, soul. Jorge listened, stunned. He couldn't believe someone had done this much homework on his tiny corner store. Elliot continued, I don't want to buy you out. I want to build with you. You'll stay in control. But with my team, we'll turn Spin Clean into a model that can grow into other neighborhoods, other states. Clean, affordable, human-centered laundry services. Jorge blinked. But why me? Elliot smiled. Because you care more about people than profits. And that's exactly why profits will follow. For the next hour, they drove through town as Elliot asked Jorge about his story, his dreams, and the obstacles. Jorge opened up. About the machines breaking, the loan rejections, the nights he cried quietly in his car before going home. Elliot listened, not like a banker, like a friend. At the end of the meeting, Elliot handed Jorge a second envelope. This one had two items: a draft partnership agreement, making Jorge a 50% partner in the new venture, a check, $100,000, marked first phase, infrastructure and equipment upgrade. Jorge's hands shook. I don't know what to say, he whispered. Don't say anything yet, Elliot replied. Come to my office tomorrow, meet the team, ask your questions, and only then decide. Jorge nodded slowly. Okay. When he stepped out of that SUV, the city felt different. The same cracked sidewalks and honking traffic, but now, everything felt possible. He walked back to Spin Clean, stood in the center of the machines, and for the first time in years, he let himself dream bigger. The invisible hand had become a guiding force. But the journey was only just beginning. The next morning, Jorge walked into an office building that looked like a tech startup, not the headquarters of a private investor. Glass walls, soft lighting, framed photos of small businesses, taco trucks, bookshops, auto repair garages, all now thriving brands. Elliot met him in the lobby with a warm handshake and led him into a sleek conference room where 4 professionals sat ready: Chloe, operations; Marcus, finance; Ravi, branding; and Diane, legal affairs. Jorge swallowed hard. He'd never sat in a room like this. But Elliot placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "They work for you now." 2. The presentation began. Chloe mapped out the new service model: 24/7 smart lockers, mobile app scheduling, pickup and drop-off logistics. We're not just making laundry easier. We're restoring time and dignity to working families, she explained. Marcus walked. Jorge threw a simple, clear financial plan: phase-by-phase investment, operating margins, inventory controls, local vendor partnerships. No risky loans, no debt traps. You grow at your pace, profitably, he said. Ravi, the branding genius, unveiled the new visual identity: a reimagined logo, soft blue and white tones, a tagline, "Clean starts here." He showed mock-ups of uniforms, storefronts, a sleek delivery van wrap. Then came Diane, who gently explained how the legal structure would protect Jorge's ownership, how the expansion would be regulated, and how he'd maintain full oversight. "You're not being replaced," she said. "You're being scaled." Jorge couldn't stop nodding. For the first time in his life, people weren't just listening. They were building with him. They took a break for lunch, pupusas, catered from a Salvadoran spot Jorge loved. Elliot believed culture started at the table. Over bites of cheese and Laraco, Jorge asked the one question that had been haunting him. "Why do you stay invisible?" Elliot paused, then answered slowly, "Because true power doesn't need to be seen. If I'm in the spotlight, people try to impress me. But when I stay in the shadows, I get to see who people really are." That silence lingered. Jorge nodded. After lunch, the team laid out the execution timeline: 30 days for equipment upgrades, 60 days for new tech rollout, 90 days to pilot delivery services, 120 days to open a second location in Newark. All of it was happening, fast, real, structured, and Jorge was at the center of it. At the end of the day, they handed him a personalized binder with everything: operations, training modules, customer engagement scripts. He would return to Patterson not just as a laundromat owner, but as the CEO of a growing brand. He left the office overwhelmed, but in the best way possible. For years, Jorge had felt invisible. Now, because of one man who chose to remain unseen, he was finally being seen by the world. Over the next 6 months, Spin Clean transformed from a small, struggling laundromat into a rising star of the local service industry. It began with the equipment. Brand new, energy-efficient washers and dryers were installed. Jorge cried the day the old, rusted machines were hauled out. It felt like letting go of pain. Then came the training. Chloe and her operations team spent days on site, walking Jorge and 2 new employees, Maria and Calvin, through systems of customer service excellence, sanitation protocols, and digital order processing via tablets. Next, they launched the mobile app. Customers could now schedule drop-offs and pickups from home. Business doubled within a week. Then came the uniforms. Jorge wore his navy blue spin-clean shirt with pride. It had his name stitched on the chest and co-founder on the sleeve. People noticed. The community responded. Elderly customers who couldn't lift heavy bags were now getting laundry picked up and delivered. Busy mothers saved hours each week. Jorge even started a pay-what-you-can Sunday service for struggling families, and donations from the app's tip jar covered the cost. But perhaps the most emotional moment came on a rainy Wednesday in month 4. A grandmother named Lourdes, whose husband had passed just months before, stepped into the store and asked to speak with Jorge. She handed him a plastic bag and whispered, "These were my husband's clothes. I haven't had the strength to clean them. I just couldn't." Jorge nodded, tears welling. "We'll take care of them," he said gently, with respect. 2 days later, Lourdes received her husband's neatly folded shirts in a white spin-clean box, wrapped in a blue satin ribbon with a handwritten note from Jorge. She cried. Word spread. Spin Clean was no longer just a laundromat. It was becoming a symbol of dignity, care, and hope. Meanwhile, Elliot remained mostly invisible. Emails, occasional check-ins, a late-night call to offer reassurance when a pipe burst in month 5. But Jorge now understood. The millionaire's greatest investment wasn't the money. It was the belief that someone like Jorge could lead. By month 6, the second location in Newark was under construction. Jorge had visited the site in a hard hat, inspecting the space like a seasoned executive. He even started mentoring 2 other immigrant business owners, one running a shoe repair shop, the other a small cafe. Build from the heart, he told them, and when the right person sees you, they'll believe too. Jorge was changing, quietly, confidently. The man who once counted quarters to pay electric bills was now speaking in terms of KPIs, unit economics, and brand equity. And yet, he hadn't changed at all. He still swept the floors every night. Still refilled the vending machines. Still greeted every customer by name. Because he knew that's what the invisible millionaire had seen in him all along. By the 9th month of their partnership, Spin Clean had expanded into 3 thriving locations across New Jersey, each reflecting the same warm, human-centered philosophy Jorge had always believed in, now polished and scalable. It was then that Elliot's team surprised him. "You're speaking at the Small Business Growth Summit in Boston," Chloe announced one morning, holding out an invitation. Jorge's eyes widened. "Me? Speak?" "Yes, you," Marcus added. "You're the case study everyone wants to hear. You're what's possible." Jorge hesitated. His English still had a heavy accent. He'd never spoken into a microphone. But Elliot called him that night. "You don't need perfect grammar," Elliot said. "Just perfect truth." The room in Boston was packed. Over 300 entrepreneurs, investors, and students sat waiting. Jorge stepped up to the stage in his navy spin-clean shirt, the same one he wore on his first expansion day. He cleared his throat. "My name is Jorge Gutierrez. I came to this country with 2 suitcases and a dream. I washed clothes. I fixed machines. I cried when customers didn't come." He paused, then continued. "But one day, someone saw me. Not because I was rich, not because I was famous, but because I didn't give up." He told the room about Spin Clean, about Lourdes, about Maria and Calvin, about the first envelope, about the invisible millionaire who changed everything. No names were mentioned, no brands, only the impact. The room gave him a standing ovation. Later that night, Jorge sat, alone at the hotel bar, sipping sparkling water. A young woman approached. "Thank you for your speech," she said. "My parents run a bodega in the Bronx. Hearing your story made me feel like maybe we're not invisible." Jorge smiled. "You're not. Keep going." The next morning, he got a call from Elliot. "I watched your talk," Elliot said. "You didn't just represent Spin Clean, you represented every entrepreneur who's ever been overlooked. Well done." Jorge hung up and stared out the window. He realized something profound. maybe being seen isn't about lights and cameras. It's about doing the work so well, you become impossible to ignore. That week, SpinClean's app downloads tripled. The story from the summit was picked up by a national business podcast. Emails flooded in, from single moms, retired veterans, former inmates, all saying the same thing: "You gave me hope." And through it all, Elliot remained in the background, coaching, advising, protecting the mission. Jorge knew now, the most powerful forces in business often work quietly. 1 year after Jorge opened that envelope with $10,000 and no name attached, SpinClean had become a regional success story. 3 stores, 30 employees, one purpose: to serve with dignity. But the real success wasn't in revenue, charts, or expansion maps. It was in the way Jorge led, quietly, firmly, with gratitude. It was in Maria, now a store manager training new hires. In Calvin, who used his salary to start night classes in logistics. It was in the families who no longer had to choose between laundry and groceries. And in the countless young immigrants who now walked past SpinClean with pride, thinking, "If he did it, maybe I can too." One day, Jorge received a final letter, typed, unsigned. Elliot never did like attention. "You've done more than grow a business, Jorge. You've grown a new standard. I chose you because I saw honesty, courage, and care. Now others will see it too. Keep leading. The invisible ones are still watching." Jorge folded the letter, placed it in a small frame, and hung it in the office above the time clock. He didn't need to see Elliot again. The impact was everywhere. SpinClean would go on to expand into Pennsylvania, then Maryland. Each time, Jorge brought with him not just systems and strategy, but soul, and the legend of the invisible. Millionaire? It spread in whispers, among barbershops in Philly, among taco trucks in Queens, among auto mechanics in Baltimore. Stories of a man who showed up unseen and left behind success. Before you go, if this story moved you, if you believe in honest work, in second chances, and in the power of invisible kindness, you're in the right place. This channel is home to true lessons wrapped in fiction, crafted to inspire entrepreneurs, investors, dreamers, and doers. Subscribe now so you don't miss the next incredible journey. Like this video if you believe quiet success is the loudest kind. Comment below. What would you do if a stranger believed in you? Share this story with someone who's building something from nothing. We never know who's watching. Sometimes your opportunity is already near. So keep showing up, keep doing it right. Because one day, like Jorge, you might be seen by the millionaire no one sees.